welcome and namaste from New Delhi. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Gautam Roy. Coming up over the next 1 hour. Israel strikes Damascus military headquarters as fighting rages on in southern Syria. US envoy calls on all parties to step back after deadly clashes. Chief of Defence Staff Anil Chauhan lauds India's indigenous drone capabilities that foiled Pakistani attacks during Operation Sindhur. Says success is a testimony of the nation's self-reliance in strategic tech advancements. UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer questions Tories over secret Afghan resettlement plans, welcomes further investigations over 2022 Afghan data leak. And Indonesia clinches US trade deal, says Trump is a tough negotiator. President Subianto welcomes new era deal with huge tariff cuts. First up, tensions flared up anew in West Asia as Israel's air campaign aimed at protecting Druze community struck Damascus, including near the presidential palace and defense ministry. In the latest attack, one person has been killed. Israeli officials are saying the strikes enforced a demilitarized buffer zone. More in this report.
Tensions in West Asia are flaring once again. Israel has launched a series of coordinated airstrikes on the Syrian capital, Damascus, in response to the Syrian government's action targeting the Druze community. One of the Israeli strikes reportedly landed near the presidential palace, while others damaged key sites, including the Syrian Defense Ministry. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu justified the airstrikes as a measure to maintain a demilitarized zone in southwestern Syria and to protect the Druze population.
We are also operating in Syria. We have an obligation to maintain the southwestern region of Syria as a demilitarized zone bordering Israel. We will not allow a return to a situation where a second Lebanon is being established there. And we are also obligated to protect the Druze residents. We are doing this through intense operations. I hope we will not have to operate anymore. It depends very much on what is understood and done, and also what is not done in Damascus.
Amid escalating tension in West Asia, both Israel and Iran continue to be at loggerhead. As tensions deepen, Iran has directly blamed Israel for attempting to destabilize the Islamic Republic. Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei claimed that the Israeli strikes during last month's 12-day war were aimed at weakening Iran's leadership and provoking unrest to topple the government. In a statement posted on his official website, Khamenei said key individuals and sensitive sites in Iran were targeted in a calculated effort. President Donald Trump has commented that while Iran appears willing to talk, the US is in no rush for negotiations, pointing to last month's military strikes.
Well, they want to talk. I'm in no rush to talk. They would like to talk. I'm in no rush to talk because we obliterated their site. They'd have to start all over. In fact, it's obliterated to the point that it's not usable anymore. They'd have to pick a different mountain.
Amid growing instability in the region, the Indian embassy in Iran has issued an advisory urging Indian nationals to avoid non-essential travel to the country. The embassy also advised Indian citizens currently in Iran to remain vigilant and consider returning through available commercial and ferry services. Bureau Report, DD India.
British Prime Minister Keir Starmer has called on former Conservative ministers to answer serious questions over the Afghan data leak, which exposed personal details of nearly 19,000 applicants to the Afghan relocations and assistance policy. The leak, caused by a defense official's error in February 2022, led to an operation to bring 16,000 Afghans to the UK and a super injunction banning media coverage to protect the applicants from the Taliban. Starmer criticized the Conservative government's handling of the policy, citing major failings and costly secret arrangements revealed by the Defence Secretary.
There's always been support across this House for the United Kingdom fulfilling our obligations to Afghans who served alongside British forces. We warned in opposition about Conservative management of this policy, and yesterday the Defence Secretary set out the full extent of the failings that we inherited. A major data breach, a super injunction, a secret route that has already cost hundreds of millions of pounds. Ministers who served under the party opposite have serious questions to answer about how this was ever allowed to happen. The chair of the Defence Committee has indicated that he intends to hold further inquiries. I welcome that and hope that those who were in office at the time will welcome that scrutiny.
Now, major stock markets steadied on Wednesday as traders weighed a spike in US and UK inflation that raised concerns that President Donald Trump's tariffs could be feeding into the American economy. European markets and Wall Street showed modest gains as the latest data dampened the prospect of interest rate cuts by the US Federal Reserve as a 1st of August deadline looms for Trump's latest tariff threat to several economies, including India. Here's a report.
US President Donald Trump is pushing through with his tariff agenda, dispatching a new batch of letters to country leaders outlining tariffs on goods. The US economy is facing growing pressure as tariffs begin their impact. While the broader US economy has remained resilient, the growing costs of items like appliances, clothing, and electronics have pushed inflation to its highest level in 4 months. The situation is now forcing many to question as to how long can the US withstand these pressures. Also, US consumer prices increased most in 5 months during June amid higher costs for some goods, even as Trump says that consumer prices are low and the Federal Reserve should bring down interest rates. Hailing a new era of trade relations with the United States, Indonesian President Prabowo Subianto said that President Trump was quite hard to negotiate with after the two countries reached a deal to reduce proposed US tariffs from 32% to 19%.
Thank God, although the negotiation was quite tough, we understood the interest of the United States and they also understood our interests. We agreed on the tariffs now from 32% down to 19%. I will keep negotiating and I would say Trump is quite hard to negotiate with.
Meanwhile, Indonesians question the fairness of their country's trade deal with the United States. The deal is only among a few agreements reached by the Trump administration so far, ahead of an August 1 deadline for negotiations.
Firstly, our competitiveness will go down, and secondly, it is likely that many orders will be postponed now. And thirdly, usually the US, will ask for a discount, as we know if we also have a fabric factory, they will also ask us for a discount so that all involved will bear together so that they can both live. Margins will definitely decrease.
Elsewhere in Greece, which is the world's biggest exporter of tinned peaches, of which 20% is exported to the United States, farmers and factory owners are worried that the 30% tariffs will dent demand for their produce. The tension is mounting, just as they are preparing to send their fresh harvest overseas, giving them little time to adapt or find alternative markets.
So for us, it is a great shock at the moment. The only thing we are doing is waiting and hoping that by August 1st, an agreement will appear that, let's say.
Amid all this, French and German finance ministers on Wednesday urged the United States to hold serious and targeted talks to reach a fair agreement in the EU-US tariff dispute. EU Trade Chief Maros Sefcovic is heading to Washington, D.C. for tariff talks with his counterparts. The European Commission is prepared to target 72 billion euros worth of US goods, from Boeing aircraft to bourbon whiskey to cars, for possible tariffs if trade talks with Washington fail. Bureau Report, DD India.
Now, the European Commission on Wednesday proposed a €2 trillion 7-year EU budget placing a new emphasis on economic competitiveness and defence while aiming to reform the rules around farm and economic development subsidies. EU Budget Commissioner Piotr Serafin told the European Parliament that €300 billion would go to agriculture, €218 million to less developed regions and €451 billion to a European Competitiveness Fund. The new budget also allocates €131 billion to defence and space, a five-fold increase over the current level. An agreement on the new EU budget, which will run from 2028 to 2034, requires the backing from all 27 member countries and a sign-off from the European Parliament. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen declared that her proposed new €2 trillion budget for the European Union had been designed for a new era. Now, despite US President Donald Trump arming Ukraine, he's cautioned Kyiv against striking Moscow directly. Meanwhile, Russia launched a major attack on Ukraine overnight, and in response, Ukraine also targeted Russian territories with drone strikes, damaging homes and infrastructure. As diplomacy stalls, drone warfare continues to escalate on both sides.
Though US President Donald Trump armed Ukraine with military weapons against Russia, he has directed President Volodymyr Zelensky not to target Moscow. Trump, who announced new NATO-backed military aid for Kiev, has also given Russia 50 days to reach a peace deal.
NATO is going to pay us back for everything. In some cases, we're going to be paid back by countries of the European Union directly.
Are we starting to see those
But
payments?
we're always getting our money back in full. So we're not going to have any more investment to make. We're getting our money back in full. And if we can make a deal, that'd be great. We're saving 5,000 or 6,000 soldiers a week. They're Russian and they're Ukrainian soldiers. They're not American soldiers. And we won't have boots on the ground. But it's a shame.
Meanwhile, despite multiple peace talks mediated by President Trump, efforts to end the Ukraine war have fallen short to date. Between late Tuesday and early Wednesday, Russia launched a major strike on Ukraine, defying renewed calls for a peace deal. At least 18 people were wounded and houses and other buildings damaged in Ukrainian drone attacks on Russian territories.
Of course, as Dmitry Peskov said, we want to understand what is behind the statement on 50 days. It used to be 24 hours and it was 100 days. We have all been through this. And we really want to know what motivates the President of the United States.
While European allies welcomed stronger US support, some urged Washington to share more of the financial burden. The European Union did not approve new Russian sanctions. EU Foreign Affairs Chief Kaja Kallas announced on Tuesday after a meeting with EU foreign ministers in Brussels.
We welcome President Trump's announcement to send more weapons to Ukraine, although we would like to see US to share the burden. America and Europe are working together, and if we are working together, this can put the pressure on Putin to negotiate seriously. The only way to get Putin to end this war is to force his hand.
Russia currently controls all of Luhansk, over 70% of Donetsk, Zaporizhia and Kherson, plus parts of Kharkiv, Sumy and Dnipropetrovsk, while continuing to recapture settlements. In response, Ukrainian forces are installing anti-drone nets over frontline supply roads to block deadly Russian drone attacks. Both sides increasingly use swarms of cheap explosive drones, but the nets cause drones to short-circuit on impact, protecting vehicles and personnel. As the conflict rages on, diplomatic efforts and military innovations continue side by side, marking the complex and protracted nature of the war in Ukraine. Ravindra Chauhan's report for DD India.
And still to come on DD India Newshour. India sees above normal rainfall in its ongoing monsoon season, but with a heavy toll on lives and livelihoods. Outrage in France as its Prime Minister unveils plans to scrap 2 public holidays and freeze most public spending. And the rising risk of extinction of South Africa's national bird, the blue crane, and the efforts to stop that from happening.
geopolitics and trade deals. Economic challenges amid development. Hard work and the path to prosperity. It's the economy, always. Between walkers, money is what money does and says. Supply creates its own demand. Between the bulls pulls and bears tears. When supply chains globalization and India rises to the podium. We'll get you centered with the Economic Brief at 8 p.m. every Thursday on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India Newshour. I'm Gautam Roy. Now, from India's overflowing rivers and deadly monsoon to flash floods sweeping through the US as well as Japan and a rare Arctic heat wave, extreme weather is rewriting headlines across the globe. Here's a look at how different corners of the world are grappling with these climate shocks.
From flood-hit neighborhoods in the US and Japan to a heat wave in the Arctic Circle and India's relentless monsoon, the world's weather map is painted with extremities this week, underlining the growing unpredictability of climate patterns. India has seen above normal monsoon rainfall with cumulative showers at 109% of the long period average as of mid-July. But the heavy downpour has come at a cost. Over 100 people have died in Himachal Pradesh in rain-related incidents since June 20, while rising waters of the Ganga have flooded low-lying parts of Prayagraj in Uttar Pradesh. Assam's Dibrugarh is also grappling with intense rain, and Srinagar in Jammu and Kashmir witnessed wet weather midweek. In the United States, flash floods swarmed New Jersey, prompting a state of emergency after muddy waters gushed into neighborhoods. 2 people died in Plainfield when their car was swept away. Alerts are in place across the New York City area.
We had some serious weather that hit us last night. And we had, sadly, 2 fatalities in Plainfield and a car that was swept away. Say Union County and Somerset County had the biggest impact. A whole number of communities, a significant amount of damage, which we're still assessing. The White House has reached out.
Japan's Fuji City endured torrential rains following a typhoon, while wildfires in Turkey and near Athens in Greece have torched forests and threatened homes. Meanwhile, up north, Rovaniemi on Finland's Arctic Circle is reeling under a rare heat wave touching 30 degrees Celsius, a stark sign of warming trends. A clear sign that the climate's new normal is anything but normal. Nishchoy Roy for DD India.
French Prime Minister François Bayrou has unveiled a controversial budget with plans to scrap 2 public holidays and freezing most public spending as part of a €43.8 billion budget squeeze he's outlined on Tuesday. Bayrou's plan involves freezing welfare spending and tax brackets in 2026 at 2025 levels, which was immediately criticized by left-wing and far-right politicians. Defense spending, however, will increase. France saw its budget deficit hit 5.8% of GDP last year, nearly double the official EU limit of 3% of GDP.
The burden of debt is becoming a crushing budget allocation. In 2029, if we don't change anything, the part of public spending for the payment of interest for this debt would be €100 billion, meaning by far the highest budget allocation of the state, much higher than the budget allotted for education. With each second that passes, each second, France's debt increased by €5,000. €5,000 of additional debt per second. This is where we are at. And this is why I believe that, as we have been saying since this government took office, we now have the duty to assume our responsibility. I think this is the last stop before the cliff and the crashing down because of debt. We should call it by its name. It's a mortal danger for a country.
Meanwhile, there's outrage in France over this move. Let's listen in to some of the reactions of common Parisians.
Everyone's okay with making an effort, but there's making an effort and then there's making an effort. Is he making an effort? At 73 years old, he'd be better off retiring himself rather than taking the place of someone who's younger.
I work with lots of foreign companies and maybe they have fewer public holidays, but they have more flexible or much shorter hours. Maybe 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. rather than 10 a.m. to 7 p.m., a lunch break. We are French, so we need to enjoy that, but it varies. When I used to work in advertising, I finished at 9 p.m., 10 p.m.
Now, for more on what this means for the European Union's second biggest economy, we are joined by DW's Chipona Chimberu from Berlin. Good evening to you, Chipona. Tell us about the French government's plans first.
Thanks for having me. Well, the French government wants to cut spending by nearly 44 billion euros, and that plan includes a new tax for the highest earners, keeping pension and welfare payments at 2025 levels, and scrapping 2 public holidays. Now, this is all in a bid to lower France's public deficit. The EU's second biggest economy has one of the highest ratios of government debt to GDP in Europe, and only Greece and Italy have higher levels of debt in the EU. Now, last year, France's government debt was around 113% of its GDP. That is much higher than the level that has been set by the European Union. It requires member states to maintain a maximum debt of 60% of GDP. So this, of course, is a concern for Brussels, but also several rating agencies which lowered France's credit rating last year. Now, France does still have a strong rating, but there is concern about its ability to lower its debt levels. The problem, though, is that there is very little support in France for the centrist government's efforts to do that because of political uncertainty in the country.
But if these measures unfold, Chiponda, can France turn its economy around?
The government will need to strike a balance between getting those public finances in order and ensuring that France remains an attractive place to do that. And that, of course, will be a challenge if the government is raising some taxes and lowering its spending. Now, of course, the government also needs to get the buy-in for a budget from the left-wing alliance or the far right. So it does look like we will be getting more deadlock or compromises that won't be fixing much of the problems that France has with its debt. And that means, of course, there's also questions about Macron's government and whether it will last until the presidential and parliamentary elections in 2027. But of course, even elections may not resolve the issue that France has because it is politically divided, and it will be hard for any party to get a clear majority in parliament. So that will remain probably an ongoing problem in the country.
All right, Chipendo, let's hope that France can get things in order before they get out of hand. Thanks a lot for joining us from Berlin. Now, OpenAI's ChatGPT is experiencing widespread global outage starting early Wednesday, impacting thousands of users and affecting access to OpenAI tools such as Sora and the GPT API. This marks the second outage this month, with Down Detector reporting that 88% of users faced complete inaccessibility. The users also reported of login failures. OpenAI has acknowledged the outage and all issues have now been fixed. In Bangladesh, at least 4 people have been killed in violent clashes in Gopalganj, the home district of Sheikh Hasina. The unrest broke out over a rally by the National Citizen Party, marking the first anniversary of the July uprising. Amid escalating tensions, the government has imposed a curfew in the district until Thursday evening. Security has been tightened with the deployment of the police, rapid action battalions, army personnel and 4 platoons of Border Guard Bangladesh to prevent further violence. And in Sri Lanka, Prime Minister Dr. Harini Amarasuriya has reaffirmed her country's commitment to sustainable development and energy security through stronger regional cooperation. Speaking at the 7th Regional Committee meeting of the International Solar Alliance for Asia and the Pacific in Colombo, she called solar energy a shared regional opportunity and urged countries to work together for a greener, more resilient future.
This gathering is a testament to our shared commitment to reimagining energy systems for a future that is secure, sustainable, and inclusive. This meeting presents an invaluable opportunity to move from dialogue to alignment, to shape joint strategies that are scalable, innovative, and regionally relevant.
Now, a key highlight of the meeting was the signing of the country partnership framework between Sri Lanka and the ISA. India's High Commissioner to Sri Lanka, Santosh Jha, also underscored India's leadership in clean energy and its steadfast support for regional collaboration through the ISA platform.
We reaffirm a shared purpose and regional solidarity in advancing a sustainable energy future. I'm proud to share that India has achieved a landmark in its energy transition journey by reaching 50% of its installed electricity capacity from non-fossil fuel sources.
Let's now take a look at some other stories making news around the world as well. An Istanbul court on Wednesday sentenced Istanbul Mayor Ekrem İmamoğlu, the main rival of Turkey's President Recep Tayyip Erdogan, to a fresh prison term, extending a crackdown on the opposition. İmamoğlu, who's been in jail pending trial since March over separate corruption charges, was sentenced to 1 year and 8 months in prison for insulting and threatening the chief Istanbul prosecutor. It's the second time İmamoğlu has been convicted of insulting public officials. İmamoğlu denies the charges. An $8 billion trial by Meta platform shareholders against Mark Zuckerberg and other current and former executives kicks off, or rather has kicked off on Wednesday, alleging illegal data harvesting of Facebook users without consent. The case began in 2018 following revelations that data from millions of Facebook users was accessed by a now defunct political consulting firm. British electric hypercar maker McMurtry Automotive showcased its Spearling at the Goodwood Festival of Speed, featuring the world's first car to drive upside down from a standstill using a unique downforce on demand fan system. The single-seater generates 2,000 kg of downforce, double its weight, allowing 0 to 60 miles per hour in under 1.5 seconds, and coordinating forces over 3G, that is 3 times the force of gravity, more like a fighter jet than a race car. A volcano erupted on Wednesday in southwest Iceland, marking the 12th time in 4 years for any such opening in the Earth's crust near Reykjavik. According to local authorities, the eruption belched smoke and dramatic flows of glowing hot yellow and orange lava. People had been evacuated from Blue Lagoon, a luxury geothermal spa resort, and the nearby town of Grindavik. South Africa's national bird, the blue crane, is now at a greater risk of extinction in the wild. The elegant birds have been uplisted from near threatened to vulnerable by the International Union for Conservation of Nature, or IUCN's Red List. Blue cranes breed and nest in open farmlands, but intensified agricultural practices are putting them under pressure. Conservationists believe that partnership with farmers is now more critical than ever. And still to come in this edition of DD India News Hour. A rare oil painting of Mahatma Gandhi goes under the hammer for 152 and 800,000 British pounds at an online auction. And the Unique Identification Authority of India urges mandatory updating of biometrics of children aged 7 and above. And we'll also be speaking with an expert guest about the latest remarks made by India's Chief of Defence Staff in the context of Operation Sindhur and the role drones and counter-drones have played in thwarting Pakistan's machinations. Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Gautam Roy. Now, India's Operation Sindhur, which targeted terror factories across the border in Pakistan in the wake of the Pahalgam terror attack in April this year, has brought the role of drones in sharp relief during combat. India's Chief of Defence Staff, General Anil Chauhan, has said drones can shift tactical balance disproportionately, and self-reliance in unmanned aerial systems or UAS and counter-UASs is a strategic imperative for India. Nandita Dagar reports.
India's Chief of Defence Staff General Anil Chauhan has praised the performance of Made in India drones and counter-drone systems of the military in Operation Sindhur. Speaking at a workshop and exhibition on indigenously designed drones and counter-drones in Delhi, the CDS General Chauhan underlined the success of Operation Sindhur as a testimony of Atmanirbhar Bharat or self-reliance in defence. He said that India's counter-drone systems were so robust that the Pakistani loitering munitions were unable to breach India's air defences.
Operation Sindhur has showed us as to why indigenously developed counter-US systems and counter-US systems built for our terrain and our needs are crucial. We cannot rely on imported niche technology that are crucial for our offensive and defensive missions. We must invent and build and safeguard ourselves.
India has been steadily building its drone industry with schemes such as PLI or Production Linked Incentive Scheme worth 120 crore rupees. The Defence Ministry even banned the import of critical components of UAVs and combat drones in 2021 so that they can be made in India. The Indian drone industry is expected to grow to $11 billion by 2030. The IDEX scheme of the Department of Defence Production is also spurring startups and young engineers to develop homegrown technologies, not just for India but also for exports.
Dependence on foreign technologies weakens our preparedness, limits our ability to scale up production, results in shortfall of critical spares for sustenance and round-the-clock availability. Another important aspect of this capability is that foreign weapons and sensors, their capabilities are known to all, and adversaries can predict our tactics and doctrinal concepts based on the capabilities of this particular system.
About 550 companies in India are engaged in designing and manufacturing UAVs. The Israeli-origin Harop drones, which destroyed the Chinese-origin HQ-9 air defense systems of Pakistan in Operation Sindhur, are also being built in India. The DRDO has developed surveillance drones such as Tapas and Rustam, which were deployed in the 6th to 10th May war with Pakistan, which India emphatically won. The wars raging across the globe, Israel versus Iran, the Nagorno-Karabakh war of 2020, and even Ukraine's spider web operation that destroyed Russian strategic bombers, have heralded an era of warfare where drones will determine the outcome of wars. In New Delhi, this is Nandita Dagar for DD India.
Let's now talk about this in detail, and we have Air Vice Marshal retired Rajiv Ranjan with us to talk about it. He's a consultant with the Department of Military Affairs in the Ministry of Defence. Good evening to you. Sir, now, if we distill down the CDS's views, is it fair to infer that homegrown drone and counter-drone systems are now among the central components of India's defence architecture?
Absolutely, you are right to say that. Our homegrown drones, counter-drone, along with the BrahMos, Akash missile, IACCS, Akash Tir, are the central to our defense strategy. And he also highlighted that drones were both evolutionary and revolutionary capabilities being brought to the armed forces, wherein evolution has been slow, but systems are becoming smaller, cost-effective, as well as lethal, and revolutionary in a manner that is changing the way we fight the war, our doctrine, and the tactics is evolving. He further highlighted the need of Atmanirbharta. Essentially, if you have your homegrown system, you give a surprise and ability of those drones and the systems around the clock.
Right. Now, Operation Sindhur became a showcase for India's drone and counter-drone capabilities in the air. Now, where do we stand when it comes to using similar unmanned systems on land and in water?
While aerial system has played a major role and captured the media and imagination of the people, but both land and maritime domain, man and man system unmanned system and the counter drone also played a crucial role. Insofar as land system are concerned, the vehicle mounted counter drone, laser based counter drone system, and a whole lot of drone system which were short ranges launched loiter munition. They were deployed, and also our upgraded L-70 gun to undertake the counter drone system. In all, Akash Tir, along with the associated system of network and C2, played the crucial role in the defending against drones across our border. Insofar as maritime domain is concerned, a large number of development is taking place courtesy DRDO and startups, some of them underwater, over water, water skimming, and they didn't come in the media in the same manner. The story is still evolving for them. And hopefully, if in the future warfare, they would be visible tools of a national power.
Well, kinetic and non-kinetic warfare has come into popular discourse in the aftermath of Operation Sindhur. Now, how critical is this distinction and the development, or rather the further development of this dual capability where India's geostrategic environment is concerned?
So, while the drones are playing the crucial role in terms of both soft and hard kill, kinetic and non-kinetic means, the large number of investment from the government is happening in both the domain. And the large capabilities in terms of laser-based electronic warfare, cyber space, all these domains, they are bringing in non-kinetic, means insofar as the kinetic is, you are getting manned, armed, loiter munitions in a big manner to transform the battlefield.
Okay. Now, despite an unprecedented expansion in defense indigenization during the last 11 or so years, India remains the top arms importer in the world. Now, how soon is that likely to change?
Yeah, government has taken a large initiatives in the last 10 to 15 years of time. While we were the major importers, but we are gradually becoming exporters of arms also. We have PLI schemes, the defense budget is going up, our exports have increased substantially in terms of from 2014 to now, it is climbed up by as much as 35%. When I look at the 10 years from 2004 to 14 and thereafter 14 onward, I see 21 to 25% rise in the export. So all this would be helping us to get away from importing and a buyer to becoming exporter. The example is that you have US, France, Philippines, Armenia, and just recently, even we have an order of 2 lakhs of ballistic helmet from Singapore with our Indian industry. And I see that whole transformation for the domestic industry. This year, we had last year business of 1.75 lakh crore production by the defense industry. So eventually, in next 5 to 7 years, I see that completely the things would transform from being importer to exporter.
Yes, from the data that I have, sir, it says that India's defense exports have hit 21,083 crore rupees in FY 23-24, and that's an expansion of 30 times in a decade. Now, to my next question, is the experience of Operation Sindhur also making India recalibrate its mix of military needs and leading to a rebalancing of its defense imports as well?
Absolutely, absolutely. With each operation, we learn and transform our procurement strategy, warfighting doctrines, training pattern, and lots of new generation technologies are coming in. Reliance on space for ISR, communication, situational awareness, the AI, quantum technologies, electronic warfare, cyber warfare, all these things are bringing non-kinetic domain in a big manner, along with information dominance and the network warfare. And India has inherent strength in all this domain. Our civilian partners have mastered some of these technologies, and rapidly it's getting infused into the military. The soon you will see our information dominance would be one of the a challenge for the adversaries both across North and the West.
Right. Now, given that India has a potentially hostile neighborhood where there is a power gap in the case of China, what kind of other asymmetric capabilities and strategies, both kinetic and non-kinetic, is India looking to develop to be able to defend itself effectively and, if required, win wars?
Absolutely. Winning war is the only option for us. There is no other option for us. Our next-gen missile, air launch, ground launch, so that you have a precision attack at far ranges. Then you have manned, unmanned teaming coming up. Specialized drones are coming up, launched from stratospheric levels. Marsupials are coming up. You have a very small drone. Recently, Kamal Lab showed us climbing up to operating from 10 kilometer, and all those systems are getting inducted. Some of the counter drones, laser-based, directed energy, are getting developed and more powerful. They are being made. Our air defense system are becoming mobile and much more integrated, multi-layered, so that we eventually achieve something akin to A2AD concept, anti-access area denial concept, which Chinese and the Russians are talking of. We have a growth in electronic warfare and other domain, as I said earlier, space, cyber, quantum, AI, information dominance, and multi-domain warfare is becoming reality. This is the time what you saw with the CDS, bringing all the three services together. Essentially, he became the Sutradhar to bring the flowers together to create a unique garland so that the victory is on our side.
And let me ask you, before I let you go, that ultimately wars are won by putting boots on the ground. And where the unmanned scenario here is concerned, where do you think, what is the status right now in terms of the use of robotics in land warfare? Is that something, is that a scenario that you see happening, unfolding in a few years from now? And will India be among the first countries to do it? Because no one in the world has done it as yet.
Absolutely. We are talking of man-unmanned teaming in the air, but it's also happening on the land and maritime domain. A large number of unmanned robotics drones for the land operations are being developed. One of the most
humanoids as well.
Yes, even the robotics load carrier with rifle guns, with mines, IISC and some of the startups have developed, and they have already been tested in high altitude and both the desert terrains.
Even combat humanoid drones?
Absolutely. There are four-legged basically drones that we have done. Humanoid drones are still some way to go, and some successes happen wherein ISRO has pitched in. Some of those guys will go into the next Chandrayaan and missions also.
All right. Okay. So more development and evolution set to unfold as far as the drone space is concerned, and India will be at the forefront of it, is what we can hear, subliminally spelled out for all of us. Thank you so much for talking about it with us tonight, Air Vice Marshal Rajiv Ranjan. Now, in a significant push towards boosting agriculture and clean energy, the Union Cabinet has rolled out a series of decisions set to reshape India's rural landscape and green energy capacity. The Cabinet has approved the Prime Minister Dhan Dhanya Krishi Yojana for a period of 6 years, starting FY 25-26. The scheme is the first of its kind to focus exclusively on agriculture and allied sectors. It will cover 100 districts aimed at ramping up agricultural productivity and enhance credit availability for farmers. In the energy sector, the Cabinet cleared major investments of 20,000 crore Indian rupees in NTPC Green Energy Limited, aiming to scale up green capacity and to achieve 60 gigawatts renewable energy capacity by 2032. Niveri Lignite Corporation India Limited, that's NLCIL, has received approval of investment of 7,000 crore Indian rupees. This includes transferring renewable assets worth over 6,200 crore Indian rupees and fresh investments in ongoing projects. The government is targeting 10 gigawatts of renewable capacity there by 2030. Now, these decisions underline the government's twin thrust on empowering the farm sector and fast-tracking India's clean energy ambitions. Now, a rare oil painting of Mahatma Gandhi by British artist Claire Leighton has fetched 152 and 800 British pounds or 1.7 crore Indian rupees at a Bonhams online auction. The portrait, believed to be the only one Gandhi ever sat for, tripled its estimate. Leighton met Mahatma Gandhi through political journalist Henry Noel Brailsford in 1931 when he was in London to attend the Second Roundtable Conference. Let's also now take a look at other stories making news within the country. Well, the Unique Identification Authority of India has urged parents and guardians to complete the mandatory biometric update for children aged 7 and above. The Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology said that under the current guidelines, a child below 5 years of age does not have to provide fingerprints or iris scans due to developmental reasons. In a major development under Operation Chakra 5, India's Central Bureau of Investigation has intensified its crackdown on cybercrime syndicates and digital arrest scams. The agency today carried out coordinated searches at multiple locations across several Indian states including Bihar, Madhya Pradesh, Kerala, Punjab, Andhra Pradesh and Rajasthan. India's Ministry of Home Affairs has given in-principle approval to the Central Reserve Police Force or CRPF to raise 20 new battalions, adding over 20,000 personnel for deployment in Jammu and Kashmir. Initially, the CRPF had sought approval for 35 battalions, but the ministry has sanctioned 20 as an immediate measure following the 22nd of April Pahalgam terror attack and subsequent Operation Sindhur. And it's time now to get to some sporting updates as well. The Delhi Half Marathon on Wednesday launched registrations for its historic 20th edition, scheduled to be held on the 12th of October. The milestone year is expected to draw thousands of runners, elite athletes and fitness enthusiasts from across the country and beyond. The registrations for the physical and virtual races will commence on the 17th of July and will remain open until the 19th of September. The landmark edition of the World Athletics Gold Label Race will be flagged off from Jawaharlal Nehru Stadium. Since its inception in 2005, the Delhi Half Marathon has grown into a World Athletics Gold Label event. At the launch event, former India goalkeeper P.R. Srijesh, that is hockey goalkeeper, spoke on breaking barriers and on his new role as India coach.
When Hockey India approached me to take up the coaching role, I always thought that, okay, the experience which I gained from last, 24 years, I don't want to waste it off. I thought, okay, sharing that experience is more important for India and definitely Indian hockey.
And top Indian wrestlers will be competing at the 4th and final ranking series, which is scheduled to take place from the 17th to the 20th of July in Hungary. Former World Championships medalist Antim Panghal leads a 22-member India contingent, which includes rising stars like Neha, Priya, Sujit Kalkal and Jaideep. Asian champion Manisha Bhanwala and Sujit Kalkal will also aim for medals. This is the final senior international tournament, which will offer ranking points that will help a wrestler to earn a better seeding for the coming World Championships in Croatia. Indian women's hockey forward Deepika has created history. She has become the first Indian player to win the prestigious Polygraph's Magic Skill Award. Her electrifying solo goal against the Netherlands during the Bhubaneswar leg of the 2004-25 FIH Hockey Pro League earned her highest votes from fans to clinch the honour. The award celebrates the most dazzling and skillful plays in the FIH Pro League and is voted for by fans worldwide. Deepika's goal was shortlisted alongside entries from Spain's Patricia Alvarez and Australian women's team. England have been docked 2 World Test Championship points for their slow over rate in the 3rd Test against India at Lord's. England players were also fined 10% of the match fees as they failed to complete the overs within the allotted time. As a result, England have slipped to the 3rd position behind Australia and Sri Lanka. England captain Ben Stokes pleaded guilty to the offence, which meant there was no need for a formal hearing. England won the third test against India to take a 2-1 lead in the 5-match test series. England's Joe Root has reclaimed the top spot in the ICC men's test batting rankings after his stellar efforts in the third test against India at Lord's. Root took back the number 1 spot from compatriot Harry Brook thanks to scores of 104 and 40 runs in the match. England won the match, just as I said, by 22 runs to take a 2-1 lead in the 5-match series. This is Joe Root's 8th stint at the top spot, and the 34-year-old is the oldest number 1 batter since 37-year-old Kumar Sangakkara held the position in December 2014. And now let's get you all the updates from the Japan Open Badminton Tournament. In the men's singles, Lakshya Sen brushed aside China's Wang Zheng to advance into the second round. Sen produced a composed performance to defeat Ching 21-11 and 21-18. He will next face 7th seed and home favourite Korei Naraoka in the round of 16. Indian doubles pair Satvik Sairaj Reddy and Chirag Shetty sailed into the second round of the Super 750 event with a commanding straight game. They defeated South Korea's Kang Min-hook and Kim Dong-ju to advance into the second round. Meanwhile, PV Sindhu's campaign ended with a straight game defeat against South Korean shuttler Sim Yoo-jin. Sindhu went down 21-15, 21-14. It was her first defeat to Sim Yoo-jin in 4 meetings. Now, the 77th Primetime Emmy Awards, one of the most prestigious honours in US entertainment, are all set to air on the 14th of September this year. The countdown is over as the Emmy fraternity unveiled the official nominations list on Tuesday morning, settling the stage for an exciting award season. Sci-fi office drama, dystopian really, Severance leads the race for the 77th Emmy Awards with a whopping 27 nominations.
In what's shaping up to be one of the most competitive Emmy seasons yet, the dystopian drama Severance leads the pack with a record-breaking 27 nominations, cementing its place as both a critical darling and a fan favorite in its second season. HBO's Gritty, The Penguin takes a strong second with 24 nods, while Apple TV Plus scores big with The Studio and The White Lotus, both earning 23 nominations. The studio also ties the record for the most nominations in a single year for a comedy series, signaling a breakout moment for the streamer. Apple TV Plus tallied an impressive 27 overall nominations, including a spot in the Best Drama Series category with The White Lotus. It'll face off against Andor, The Diplomat, The Last of Us, Paradise, The Pit, and Slow Horses. Kathy Bates becomes the oldest nominee for Best Drama Actress at 77 for her role in Matlock, while 15-year-old Owen Cooper sets a new record as the youngest supporting actor nominee for Adolescence, which earned 13 nominations. The 77th Emmy Awards, to be hosted by comedian Nate Bargatze, will be announced in Los Angeles on Sunday, September 14. Shobhit Chandola's report for DD India.
And that's all we have for this edition of DD India News Hour, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. And for those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on DD India's mobile app. It's available on both Android and iOS. Just scan the QR code on the screen to download the app right away. And we'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Gautam Roy from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India News Hour.
Sir, try berry pulao. Too good.